Hi everybody, thank you for joining me for another episode on Infopedia. I am D.I. Rasai Freckleton. Now, it is the Easter season and I have been doing a lot of research on fish and other aquatic animals, and I was so fascinated by some of the things that I learned about the fish because it is easy for us to take fish for granted. We normally forget how impressive it is that they manage to live in a vastly different environment from ours. Thinking about the life of a fish always leads to a lot of questions like, how do fish mate? Do they get to sleep? And another common question is, can fish actually drown in water? So more after this break. Hey, welcome back and thank you for sticking around. Let us jump right into it. Now in this quick video, we'll be answering the question that many people are wondering. Some have even asked it. Can fish drown? Now the short answer that some experts give is yes. Fish need oxygen to survive just like humans do. And if the water that a fish is swimming in becomes devoid of oxygen, a fish can drown in this water. Now, this can frequently occur if you leave a goldfish in a small bowl without running a filter. So fish need oxygen to survive just as much as land animals, we call them terrestrial animals, do. Now, this raises a lot of questions. Can fish actually drown in water? Now, as it turns out, fish can drown in water, even though the correct term is they suffocate in water. Because as it turns out, it isn't technically drowning, because drowning is when the lungs becomes filled with water and are unable to get the oxygen that they need. Now, fish can die from a lack of oxygen, but this could be more adequately termed as suffocating or asphyxiating. So yes, we have already established that fish need oxygen. So in order to answer the question of how a fish can suffocate underwater, it would be helpful to know a little bit about the biology and anatomy of a fish. So fish have organs that require oxygen, much like humans and other mammals. Fish have hearts, brains, and the cells of which need oxygen to function. The heart pumps oxygenated blood throughout the body of the fish, bringing that oxygen to the brain. Fish also have kidneys and livers like humans do, which helps to break down waste material and fats. So the inner organs of a fish include kidneys, stomach, swim bladder, ovary, intestine, urinary bladder, heart, liver, spleen, pancreas, and brain. The liver maintains an important role in the destruction of old blood cells, enabling new blood cells to be created so that the body of the fish can keep getting oxygen. The spinal cord of the fish provides structure to the whole body, as it does with any other vertebrate. So the fish's spinal column also serves to relay information about the body to the brain and carry signals from the brain to the rest of the body via a network of nerves and the nerve roots that run the length of the spinal column. One of the organs of a fish is called a swim bladder. You heard correctly, a swim bladder, which helps them control their position in the water. So the swim bladder fills with gas to keep the fish maintain neural buoyancy and keep their position in the water. Now, not all fish have swim bladders though. Fish that don't have swim bladders may need to keep swimming to maintain their position in the water, or else they will just sink to the bottom. So, how does the gills of a fish work? As you have been hearing, the bodies of fish maintain several organs that are very common to humans. All of these organs require oxygen. Yet, unlike humans, fish don't have lungs. So if the bodies of fish need oxygen yet don't have lungs, how do they get their oxygen? The oxygen of a fish comes in through the gills of that fish. Now, gills are composed of groups of cells known as the epithelium. The epithelium is delivered deoxygenated blood by the arteries as the water moves across the membranes of the epithelium. The oxygen dissolved in the water is absorbed by the veins and the blood vessels. The carbon dioxide that is produced by cell respiration is then released during this time. So many fish have 4 gills on either side of their body, and these are consisting of interlinked columns of cells. Now, different fish push water over their gills in different ways. Frequently, fish push water over their gills by widening the skin flaps which sit over the gills. Fish open and close their mouths to do this. Lowering the bottom of the mouth causes the skin flaps to widen and allow more water in. When they close their mouths, the water is trapped within the gills and the oxygen is pulled out of it. The water is then expelled through an opening known as the operculum. Now, the level of oxygen dissolved in water is much lower than the number of oxygen particles in the air, because as you know, air is about 210,000 parts per million of oxygen, or about 21% oxygen in general. In contrast, water has around 4 to 8 parts per million of oxygen. Because the oxygen content is so much lower in water than in the air, the surface area of a fish's gill needs to be rather large to provide it with an adequate supply of oxygen. The fact that fish are cold-blooded rather than warm-blooded means they need less oxygen, which helps compensate for the large surface area needed by the gills. Now, cold-blooded animals have a slower metabolism than warm-blooded animals, and therefore they need less oxygen. Some fish, like the cartilaginous fish like rays and sharks, usually have 5 gill slits on each side of their body. Now, these gill slits are supported by a cartilaginous gill arch, which helps it maintain its structure. Most species of sharks need to breathe by forcing water over their gills, which they do by continuously swimming forward. Saltwater fish also have to have a mechanism that can expel excess sodium from their bodies. This is because of the large amount of blood that is needed to exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide is exposed by hypertonic salty water. Freshwater fish need to do the opposite. They must keep their body's level of sodium appropriately high by excreting extra water. Fish have chloride cells to help regulate the salt balance in their bodies and maintain homeostasis. So the meat of the matter right now. How do fish suffocate underwater? The fact that fish need oxygen to live means they can suffocate in a few different ways. Taking a fish out of water will naturally cause it to suffocate, as it isn't able to pull oxygen from the air with its gills. As for how a fish could suffocate underwater, this could happen in a couple of ways. Much like us, fish expel carbon dioxide when they breathe. If they are in an area where carbon dioxide builds up and not enough fresh oxygen is dissolved in the water, they can die. Now, this isn't likely to occur frequently in nature, but fish in aquariums or tanks that don't cycle the water often enough can easily die. The oxygen is dissolved into the water from the surface, but the surface area of a tank is limited in size. For this reason, air pumps are employed in tanks to bring deoxygenated water to the surface where it can be refilled with oxygen. If the gills of a fish are damaged, they won't be able to breathe as well, increasing the likelihood they will suffocate. Gill damage can happen due to attacks from other predatory marine creatures or due to chemical change from compounds like nitrates or ammonia. There's one other way a fish could suffocate underwater. Species of fish that rely on ram ventilation, swimming forward to push water through their gills, can die if they can't swim forward in the water anymore. If the fish becomes trapped or is dragged back through the water, it will suffocate. Those who hunt sharks usually kill them by dragging them back towards shore, thus suffocating them. So, while fish aren't really capable of drowning, they can die from lack of oxygen. So remember that if you have any fish at home or planning to get any fish, remember what you need to do to ensure that they live. So guys, I hope you really enjoyed this episode on Infopedia. There will be more like this. And as always, I am D.I. Rasai, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in another video. If you haven't done so as yet, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and please share. Have an absolutely amazing rest of the day.